Look at your screens, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at the figure. Arshak was taken aback by $75 million. Not for a Grand Slam winner, not for someone who has been in the news for 10 years, and not for a well-known figure whom casual sports fans may spot on the street. $75 million for a budding celebrity who, until recently, was still being introduced to the public as someone to watch. The whole professional tennis scene changed under everyone's feet in an instant. Take a moment. The shockwaves from what recently transpired are still reverberating through boardrooms, locker rooms, and social media feeds worldwide. Therefore, we need to have a very serious discussion about it. The biggest brand in sportswear, Nike, which has built empires around players like Serena Williams and Michael Jordan, has made one of the greatest wagers in tennis marketing history on Eala. Additionally, you will see that this is more than simply a sponsorship agreement if you are truly listening to what this entails. This is a proclamation. This is Nike declaring, "This is our future," in front of the entire sports world. We're putting our chips here. People initially believed it to be overstated. 75 million sounded like the kind of headline intended to create excitement rather than accurately reflect reality, the kind of figure that agents leak to inflate perception. However, the confirmation began to mount. Early in 2026, reports all pointed in the same direction. This was enormous and real. Nike and Eala had not simply extended their collaboration. In a way that immediately set her apart from every other young player on the tour, they had doubled down on her future. And that's when things became awkward. Because success in tennis does not always translate into money. It foresees it. It indicates who the industry thinks will make headlines, sell tickets, and influence culture over the course of the next 10 years. When Nike makes such a commitment, investment, they are not speculating. They're not wishing. They're placing bets. They are making a deliberate choice about who will define the sport in the future by examining data points, market research, performance statistics, and audience engagement measurements that the majority of us will never see. All of the WTA Tour's players now realized what that meant, and not everyone was pleased about it. I was just curious if you could briefly discuss the flower's meaning, how it came to be, and how significant it was to you. Oh, how special this was to me. First and foremost, I would like to just have something on the court that serves as a reminder of my origins, my nation, and my culture, as I believe that this is what makes me unique, along with everything else, including my style of play and fighting. Nike's came up with the idea for the flower in the hair. Thus, the flower is the Philippines' national flower. We refer to it as the sampaguita. As I mentioned on Instagram, the concept behind it is that you sort of harvest what you sow, or what is sowed will be reaped. Yes, that was essentially the entire point of the message, to simply have a little bit of home with me on such a famous court. Understanding the scope is crucial to comprehending the response, so allow me to walk you through the levels of this agreement. On the surface, Eala's collaboration with Nike seems like a logical progression. As one of their most promising young athletes, she has been with the brand for years and has grown gradually under their tutelage. She has trained with their help, worn their clothes on the court, and portrayed their image with a composed confidence that seems virtually made for international branding. However, this new agreement completely altered the tone. This was no longer development. Elevation was what this was. Eala was formally appointed as a worldwide ambassador by Nike. Global ambassador, let that sink in. That distinction is only given to athletes who are cultural icons in addition to competitors. The symbols, legends, and faces that introduce whole product lines are located on that tier. She was invited as a centerpiece, not as a guest, to the Nike World Headquarters in Oregon. Alongside well-known celebrities, she made an appearance on the Nike app, where her photograph was carefully chosen to represent both identity and performance. Then came the innovative partnership that truly made people talk. The Sampaguita Storm collection was more than just another release of athlete gear. It was intimate. It transformed Eala into more than just a player by fusing heritage with contemporary athletic design, drawing inspiration from the national flower of the Philippines. She turned become a symbol. She developed become a link between national pride and international sport. She came to symbolize what occurs when a company recognizes an athlete with a compelling narrative. Here's where things get interesting. Although fans rejoiced, Filipino supporters worldwide viewed this as a historic moment of representation, and Nike subtly increased its influence in a market that was expanding quickly. Something else was going on behind the scenes. The murmurs began. A few players started to wonder how someone without a significant title could want that much money. Others highlighted the increasing disparity between endorsement value and performance. In interviews, some people made subtle remarks that suggested a deeper tension without even trying to hide their dissatisfaction. Furthermore, it wasn't actually about Eala if you read between the lines. It was about what she stands for: veterans, grinders, and players who have been competing for years, accumulating victories and moving up the rankings. When they looked at this arrangement, they noticed that the game was evolving in a way they had not expected. They realized that tennis is now more than just what takes place on the court. It has to do with who can draw in viewers, tell a compelling tale, and engage audiences outside of conventional marketplaces. Everyone was upset by this conclusion because, if one player can get around the system, what does it indicate for everyone else who has been working through it the old-fashioned way? During her 2026 U, the tension got much more apparent. The swing of the tournament. Eala was all over the place. Highlighted in promotional pieces, featured in digital campaigns, and continuously surrounded by the kind of attention that typically takes years and several titles to develop. In the meantime, a few players with better rankings were asking themselves a very difficult question in private. How did she arrive so quickly? Naturally, the solution is more complicated than money. Nike made a calculated investment in Eala. It is based on a number of levels that extend much beyond her present position. The market opportunity comes first. There is a sizable untapped tennis audience in the Philippines. More than 100 million people, an expanding middle class with rising spending power, and a fervent sports culture that supports its heroes. Eala is not only playing for herself when she takes the court. The entire country is watching, applauding, and purchasing stuff. The relatability aspect comes in second. Eala speaks candidly about her path, her challenges, and her family, making a link that fans can relate to in a time when athletes frequently project polished, almost detached personas. Unlike many elite athletes, she feels approachable. Furthermore, such accessibility is extremely valuable in the era of social media, where engagement and brand loyalty are driven by parasocial interactions. This leads us to the most human aspect of the narrative. Because although the $75 million purchase made news, Eala's usage of that money revealed an entirely different aspect of her personality. Rather than ostentatious purchases or ostentatious demonstrations, rather than the homes and sports automobiles that young athletes frequently racing toward, she decided to make an investment in something very intimate. She used a portion of her income to provide her parents with the tranquil home they had always desired. A place that honors years of quiet support and sacrifice. Fans weren't the only ones who agreed with that choice. It changed people's perceptions of her. She was more than simply a teenage celebrity with a big deal. She developed into the athlete who realized that success is about giving back to the people who made it possible, as well as the daughter who recalled her roots. Ironically, this made things much more difficult for her rivals because it felt improper to criticize her at that point. Questioning a sponsorship agreement is one thing. Questioning someone who is utilizing their accomplishment in a way that seems sincere and grounded is quite another. As a result, the responses grew more nuanced rather than overtly critical. When discussing endorsements in post-match interviews, some players would specifically highlight their performance. The tone of analysts who abruptly began discussing whether marketing had surpassed quality in contemporary sports was indicative of this. However, the truth is that everyone appears to be having fun. Nike is not involved in charitable endeavors. They don't want to feel good about themselves, which is why they are spending $75 million at Eala. They see something, which is why they are acting. They see a player who can withstand pressure without losing her identity, someone who blends technical proficiency with cerebral poise. They envision a worldwide brand representative who can speak to a variety of audiences, cultures, and languages. They perceive a story that is still developing, therefore each success, milestone, and innovation will only increase the return on their investment. And if they are correct, this $75 million deal will ultimately appear to be a good value. It will appear to be the greatest tennis marketing investment since the first person to sign a young Serena Williams. However, it becomes one of the most talked about errors in contemporary sports marketing if they are mistaken. Eala is unable to convert her potential into titles, and she is unable to rise to the top of the rankings. Every match Eala plays now bears a different weight, and that uncertainty is what keeps everyone watching. Every victory is a source of affirmation. Every defeat draws attention. The spotlight isn't merely bright anymore. It is unrelenting. It follows her to press conferences, practice courts, and social media accounts. Excuses are not acceptable, and there is nowhere to hide. She doesn't appear to be deterred, though. She still moves with the same calm assurance and unwavering concentration that initially got her here. She consistently trains, competes, and represents her brand, giving the impression that she is aware of the risks. She seems prepared to live up to the $75 million expectations that come with it. The remainder of the tour is left to adjust in the interim. Some athletes will take this as inspiration, challenging themselves to develop their personal brands in previously unthought-of ways in addition to enhancing their performance. Some may intensify their pursuit of the conventional route, wagering that victories and titles would finally garner the recognition they merit. Some people will also find it difficult to connect the new reality that is right in front of them with the old world of tennis. This is when the pressure subtly shifts because Nike's perception of Alex Eala is no longer the only factor. It has to do with what her fans want from her. Eala went from being a potential name to a must-see event almost instantly. More significantly, you can sense it in the noise, even though you can see it in the figures. Engagement increases each time her name shows up in a tournament draw. Social media users share videos of her games more quickly than those of players who are ranked higher than her. Views that most athletes spend years striving to develop begin to be drawn in by highlights, training clips, and even straightforward practice rallies. The audience isn't waiting to be amused, which is a unique kind of momentum. Access is being actively demanded by them. Since visibility usually follows ranking, the desire for more content, matches, and insights into her life and progress creates a highly uncommon situation on the WTA Tour. You get more exposure the higher you are. The more victories you have, the more attention you receive. However, the spotlight is coming loudly and early with Eala. Some players have been working hard on the circuit for years, earning victories, moving up the ranks, and fulfilling all the requirements of the system, yet they are not receiving this kind of attention. They are talented and well-respected, but they do not command the same amount of curiosity, and it is getting harder to overlook this difference. Even though it is rarely expressed directly, you can sense the frustration since it poses a challenging question from the player's point of view. What else are you expected to do? Win more games? A few of them have already done so. Create a more powerful brand? It requires time, resources, as well as occasionally a little luck or the hope that the audience's attention would abruptly change. You can't control that portion. In actuality, Eala has come at the perfect time. Tennis is looking for its next big star. The sport is ravenous for new narratives, fresh viewpoints, and new faces. And now, a young lady from the Philippines, a nation that has never produced a tennis star of her caliber, arrives, bearing the burden of national expectations while managing to look effortless. Attracted by the excitement, fans from other countries begin to pay notice. Curious by the excitement, casual viewers watch to find out what makes her unique. And once they're inside, a lot of them stick around because it's fascinating to watch a player who is still creating her story in real time. Nike has already decided. They have selected their star, placed their wager, and ensured that everyone on the planet is aware of it. Therefore, even while some players could lose their cool, others might subtly adjust their tactics, and discussions about time, fairness, and what it truly means to deserve a seat in the spotlight are still going on. One thing is certain. Alex Eala is no longer merely a participant in the discussion. She is the topic of discussion. Every competition she participates in serves as a test of whether Nike's investment was worthwhile. Her legacy is strengthened with each victory. Every loss is examined and evaluated for indications that the strain is getting too great. The old guard may voice grievances. The essential reality remains unchanged despite the analysts' arguments and the tennis traditionalists wringing their hands over marketing surpassing talent. The rules and the sports world have evolved, and players who adapt will prosper while those who stick to the old ways will be left wondering what went wrong. The big storm hasn't even begun yet, so if this is how the story starts, the remainder of the tour may want to prepare. Everyone who doubted this moment, questioned the investment, and whispered about unfairness will have to sit down and admit that they were watching history being made and missed it if Eala keeps up her current trajectory and begins to accumulate titles to match the endorsement checks. Eala is still young, developing, and climbing. These days, it's not just about one player. This concerns how athletes will be sold, appreciated, and elevated in the contemporary era. This is about what happens when a brand chooses to wager on the individual rather than the resume because they sense potential before the trophies come. This is about a young Filipino woman navigating the most demanding environment in professional athletics while carrying the hopes of her country. We will learn everything we need to know about the future of professional tennis from what occurs with Alex Eala, so keep a close eye on things and pay attention. The destination is going to be amazing, if the early indications are any indication.